Welcome to Outcast Podcast.
where outcasts alike can listen and learn about global historical and political topics. I'm your host, Josh,
And I'm your unwanted co-host, Simon.
and we are the Outcast Podcast. And today, our topic is, why did Oak Park need the civil rights movement? During the mid 20th century, the United States of America treated non-Caucasian citizens far worse than today. Racism, segregation, and hate crimes were all tolerated legally and socially, and Oak Park, Illinois, feared becoming no different.
Much of this prejudice was imposed on African American citizens, and this national racism became more relevant in Oak Park following the Great Migrations, which were when millions of African Americans moved from rural southern areas that encouraged segregation and hate groups like the Ku Klux Klan to more urban and supposedly opportunistic northern areas. The majority of northern cities and towns, just like Oak Park, enforced more lenient laws regarding African American civil rights. And this attracted many African people who were desperate for fair work, pay, and the ability to support a family of their own.
Unfortunately, many new or longtime white Oak Park residents opposed the idea of allowing migrating African American citizens to live near them in the same street, district, and even community. The town's growth was inevitable, as the southern states continuously abused African Americans with Jim Crow laws and hate groups. But the types of people within that growth were what sparked upset, controversy, and violence between races. African Americans.
In retaliation to this new surge of non-white residents, the racist leaders of Oak Park impulsively denied the majority of black citizens in and near Oak Park standard living accommodations and housing rights. And the few that were lucky or wealthy enough to reside in Oak Park generally experienced poorer living conditions and racism from the town.
However, after the white residents of Oak Park began realizing the effects divided and racist communities had on African Americans, such as poverty and crime increases, like in Austin and Chicago, people began to truly consider the other option, the option of acceptance. One example of someone who helped spread this inclusive mindset was Ted Wheeler, who was included in an excerpt of the Chicago Daily Tribune, written in February 1st, 1960. In this paragraph, Ted Wheeler, who ran the mile for the United States in the 1966 Olympics, stated, "The very idea of this dialogue, debating whether all Americans should have the right to move to Oak Park, is insulting to me as a Negro." He experienced this unfair violation of civil rights firsthand when, as shown in the newspaper text, his wife came home in tears after being refused services by Oak Park realtors because she was a Negro. Not only did Oak Park realtors deny African American citizens the right to purchase and settle in property, but even worse, this rejection caused African folks to live in divided and poor neighborhoods with increased violence and crime, which was something that the citizens of Oak Park soon took to heart.
But luckily, as the civil rights movement swept through much of the country and racist laws slowly but surely became overturned, Oak Park soon followed. And in 1968, the same year Martin Luther King was assassinated, it became a law that the purchasing and ownership of housing in Oak Park could no longer allow or discrimination of their customers' race. The people of Oak Park realized that halting the progression of their town due to unfair grudges and oppressing misconceptions needed to stop, and so it did. Today, over a fifth of Oak Park's increasing population is African American, and that number is going up. Oak Park is still known for great schooling, but with an inclusive and diverse climate, our town of Oak Park flourished and continues to, all thanks to people like Ted Wheeler who helped slowly fix a racist town.
We truly hope you learned something today about our town's history and how it affected both those half a century ago and now. We'd like to thank Mr. Eichsed for giving us the privilege to do this type of project, the Oak Park River Forest Historical Museum for the Chicago Tribune information, and our Gwendolyn Brooks Middle School Media Center for recording technology. Thanks again for listening, and I hope to hear you all soon. Outcast Podcast signing off.